What's going on, YouTube? It's Tyson. I'm back here today, and today we are going to run through my top 10 albums of the year 2024. Now, 2024 to me has been one of my favorite years of my life for music. I've enjoyed it so much. There have been so many great projects, so many great singles, so many new artists that I've found this year. It's just been incredible, and there's never been a moment during the entire year where I felt like I didn't have something new or exciting to listen to. So, I have my top 10 albums, but I have some honorable mentions first. We're going to get into those. So my first honorable mention is this beabadoobee record, This Is How Tomorrow Moves. beabadoobee, obviously one of the biggest names in indie pop music, I would say. And her previous album is one of my favorite albums I've ever heard in my entire life. This Is How Tomorrow Moves, I had really high expectations for when it came out. The lead singles ended up being some of my favorite songs, which is not a bad thing, not a diss, but it didn't totally live up to all my expectations, but I still absolutely loved it, and I think she is so talented. So that's going to be an honorable mention. Second honorable mention here. You guys are going to maybe think my music taste is a little weird, a little different. That may be the case. But this Quando Rondo album that came out this year was amazing. But for me, he always... Oh, you better not. For me, he always is one of the best melodic rappers, so this was no exception. But I really love what he did here. I like the messages that he has on this album, especially compared to the content of his previous albums. All of his music is great, though, and this album was awesome. Check that out. Another rap one, we got the Glorilla album. I loved this too. So many fun songs there. This really enjoyable to listen to. Just great, exciting songs with killer beats. This McGee album, 2-Star in the Dream Police. Is that what it's called? Yeah, honestly, I forget, but the guitar work on this album is just so different and so cool. I realize now I'm cutting it off, but yeah, I just told you what it is so you can tell. Okay. This has been out for a week, less than that even. And it's not even really an album, it's just a deluxe, but I wanted to mention this because I've really been digging some of the songs on there, especially Another Life. If you haven't listened to this, go check it out. SZA just does it for me. Smino, maybe in Nirvana. This is recent too, but I really wanted to give it a nod because I thought it was a fun, enjoyable album. And then the Clairo album, one of the best indie pop records to come out this year. And obviously, she needs no explanation. She's just really good. Okay, so now we're into my top 10 albums. I also want to say, just coming back here for one sec, when we're on the subject of melodic rap, I really love the Rod Wave album that came out this year too. Okay, now, my top 10 albums. Number 10, we have Chloe Bailey's Trouble in Paradise. I think this was a big step for her career. I really enjoyed her previous album, In Pieces, too, but commercially, a lot of people were not messing with that one. I think she's really talented, one of the best voices, just pure vocals. I think she's one of the best out there. And there are so many different types of songs on here. She kind of gets in her pop bag a little bit. Obviously, she's doing some R&B. She does kind of the Cash Cobain thing on here, too. I really like a lot of the stuff she did. 9, we have... Gene Dawson with Glimmer of God. I've been a big Gene Dawson fan for probably 3 or 4 years now, ever since I heard Clear Bones and Power Freaks for the first time. So I've been listening to him for a while, and this is his best album he's ever made. It's completely different. It's a departure from everything he's done so far, but it's something I always knew he had in him. I knew he's one of the most talented dudes out there. So if you haven't heard of Gene Dawson, if you haven't listened to this album, go check that out. Number 8, we have Doechii with Alligator Bites Never Heal. This is a person's name, obviously, that I think everyone has been hearing for a while. Hi, Doechii. She's been really popping off this year, though. She was on Tyler, the Creator's album. She had some other big placements. She had a big placement on an album that I didn't really care for much, and I'm sure you guys can figure out what album that was in the comments. But regardless, she is one of the biggest new faces in rap music, and I think she's going to be around for a long time. And for this being my first album I've ever listened to all the way through for Doechii, I was blown away. So many great songs, and she's just so good. 7, we got Brat. I think a lot of people might have expected this to be higher. Even myself, when I was thinking in my head what my favorite albums of the year were, I'm like, yeah, Brat's gonna rank really high on here. It's still really high, obviously. This album's fantastic, but this just goes to show you like how good I thought the music that came out this year was. But Brat, a lot of people will say this is the best album to come out this year, and I'm not going to argue with that at all. It's so much fun, so many fun beats, so many good songs, so much replay value. Check that out if you haven't, but I know everyone watching this has probably heard Brat already. 6. See, this is where you might think I'm crazy, but we have Big X the Plug's Take Care. I do, in the future, hope Big X the Plug kind of looks for different sounds as well, but the sound he's working with right now is really doing it for me, and I think it's doing it for a lot of other people as well. I love the sampling in his beats. I just love his beats in general, but his samples, he really gets some deep pulls, and they sound really cool. And it just puts people onto other old music as well, so I think it's a really positive thing. Saw him in concert as well, like a month ago. Absolutely killed it, so really been enjoying him lately. And needless to say, I love this album. 5. We got JPEG Mafia. I Lay Down My Life for You. This year, it's kind of crazy because I've been a big music person for a long time, and I've known about Peggy forever. But this is the first year where I really started to become a big fan of him. It didn't totally do it for me in the past, but I think this album is kind of what made me get it. That tied with I've started to try and produce a lot of my own songs this year too, and I realized just how intricate so many of the things he does are. People will have their opinions about the AI sample on Either On or Off the Drugs. I don't love AI being a thing in music. I think this could have placed even higher for me if that wasn't an AI cover, but the way he used it was pretty unique. And he's one of the most creative people, so I don't think he was doing that to take away from real music. I think he was doing it just because he thought it was cool. Number 4, we got Tems, Born in the Wild. Most of the year, this was my second favorite album to come out this year. I was obsessed with it. Just so good. Tems is incredible. Been listening to her for a few years, and I think this is her best music she's put out. A lot of people might disagree. I think some people will say For Broken Ears is better, but this album really did it for me. And apparently did it for the Grammy committee too, because I think she's up for 3 or 4 of them, and I hope she wins everything she's up for because this was spectacular. Shout out to Tems. Number 3, I couldn't find a JPEG image or a PNG. It was all web, whatever. It took me forever to just find a picture of Kendrick Lamar that was reminiscent of the GNX album cover. But GNX is my 3rd favorite album to come out this year. We've had it to listen to for about a month, maybe a little bit longer than that. So it's all kind of settled. I've been able to tell what my favorite songs are on there. I've been able to tell everything else. So many just really cool. A lot of introspective stuff on here. Gloria, Whacked Out Murals, Reincarnated. Just so many sick songs on here that I keep returning to. And so many cool lines on here, too. I mean, I will not get over that Lil Wayne line. I love Lil Wayne. I love Kendrick. Beef aside, and I don't even think there really is a beef, but that line was just wow. Okay. Number 2, it was hard for me to decide which album I like better between 3 and 2. Most people will probably disagree with me here, putting this one higher, but I do have Chromacopia at 2. The reason I'm going higher with this one is surprisingly because of the lyricism. Obviously, Kendrick is one of the greatest lyricists we've ever seen. Of this generation, he's probably the best. But Tyler has always been the bigger production guy. I think on this album, and Tyler's always really good at like getting across his emotions on albums too, but there are some songs on here where it's just like, oh my goodness, like you almost cry because it's like, wow, this is really emotional stuff, and he's just able to vocalize it so well. Obviously, most people know I'm probably talking about Like Him when I say this, but there are so many other songs on this album that are just really good, and then a lot of bangers as well. You got Sticky, you got Your Darling Eye, you got Your Balloon. Like, there are a lot of fun songs on this album too. So that's why I have it at 2. And then if you've seen my previous video where I talked about my Apple Music replay for the year, you probably already know what I'm going to have at number 1. I don't even know if I pronounce it right, but this is Orquídeas, however you say it, by Kali Uchis. I was only able to get a picture of the deluxe cover. I was having the same issues I was with the Kendrick album. But if you have watched either of my previous 2 videos, you know how I feel about this album and her last one, Red Moon and Venus. I mean, Kali Uchis, back-to-back years, has had my favorite album of the year. And I think that's just because her music really works specifically for me. It works for a lot of people, but for me, it's like the most beautiful thing I've ever heard in my entire life. So when I heard Tu Corazones Mio for the first time, I knew. And this came out in January. I knew, like, this is my favorite album of the year. And I keep going back, and I keep going back and back and back. It was my top played album of the year. It had my top played song of the year. This album has 10 different songs that I'm just like, this is gorgeous. This is one of the greatest songs I've ever heard in my life. I don't know. A lot of people might not agree with this being the number 1 album on the list, but I'm going to stand by that. I think this is just incredible. Okay, so there you have it. That is my list of my top 10 favorite albums of the year. I'm going to show you guys just the honorable mentions again, just to have something pulled up while